Welcome to this explainer on building real projects with Python. Look, if you're a beginner, a computer science student, or just teaching yourself how to code, you are exactly where you need to be. Today, I'm going to put on my mentor hat for a bit and talk to you about a trap that literally almost every aspiring software developer falls into at some point. It's called tutorial hell. You know what I'm talking about, right? This is when you spend months and months just endlessly watching tutorials without ever actually building anything yourself. Sure, you learn Python syntax, you figure out loops, you kind of know how functions and classes work, but the exact moment someone asks you to create a real application from scratch, you completely freeze up. You just don't know where to start. Your browser basically becomes this graveyard of 50 open tutorial tabs. Well, we're going to change that today.
So, here's our game plan for today. We'll start by talking about how to escape tutorial hell. Then we'll walk through the software development lifecycle and cover the real-world skills you gain by actually building things. After that, we'll map out a clear Python project roadmap, go over some common mistakes you definitely want to avoid, and finally, talk about turning your hard work into a professional portfolio. All right, part 1, escaping tutorial hell, passive versus active learning. Like I mentioned, passive learning is the absolute biggest hurdle you're going to face early on. Let's dive right into this core truth from our source material. You become a software developer by building software. Honestly, learning Python is exactly like learning to drive a car. Think about it. You don't become a good driver simply by sitting in your room reading the highway code over and over again, right? Of course not. You become a good driver by actually getting behind the wheel, hitting the gas, and navigating real roads. Programming works the exact same way. Every single project you take on teaches you something new. Every crazy bug you accidentally create and then have to fix makes you a significantly better programmer. So there's a really clear distinction we need to make here. Tutorials are absolutely important, for sure, because they teach you the core concepts. But projects are where you gain actual practical experience. A tutorial might show you exactly how to type out and use a Python dictionary, but a project forces you to figure out when, why, and where you actually need to use that dictionary to solve a specific problem. True learning begins the exact second you stop blindly copying code from a video screen and start making your own architectural decisions. Moving right along to Section 2, the Software Development Lifecycle, a Professional Blueprint. When you transition from a learner to a professional, you quickly realize that real developers don't just open a blank file and start mashing the keyboard. They follow a process. First, they actually understand the problem, like, say, wanting to track daily expenses. That flows right into planning out what information the user will actually need to enter. Only after all that do they design the architecture, breaking the app into manageable chunks. Next comes the actual code, which they write in small, frequent batches. And that immediately leads to testing for crashes or bad data. Finally, they improve and refine it. Large software isn't magic, it's simply many small problems solved one at a time.
Which brings us to Section 3, skills gained by building, beyond syntax.
Now that we understand the basic process, let's look at the skills you actually develop when you step into the builder's arena. Here's a secret. Employers rarely care how many hours of tutorials you've binged. They don't. They want to know if you can apply what you've learned to actually think like a software engineer. Building projects naturally improves your logical thinking and your problem-solving skills. You learn to use Git, how to collaborate, and honestly, most importantly, how to debug a massive wall of red error text without having a full-blown panic attack. When you eventually sit down for an interview, the absolute most important question they will ask you is simply, "So, what have you built?"
Okay, Section 4, your Python project roadmap, beginner to advanced.
It's time to talk about what you should actually be building. Listen, do not try to build a clone of ChatGPT on day 1. Seriously, don't do it. As a beginner, you want to start simple. Think along the lines of a calculator, a to-do list, or maybe an expense tracker. These keep things manageable while still introducing you to those core programming concepts. Once you've got a handle on those, it's time to level up to intermediate. Try making a weather app using a live API or a basic banking app. This introduces you to modules and much better design patterns. Finally, once you're ready, push into the advanced tier. We're talking a Django web application, an AI chatbot, or even a full-scale hospital management system. And those advanced projects, they are absolutely critical for one major reason. Real projects solve real business problems. The true purpose of programming at the end of the day is to provide solutions. By building a hospital management system, an accounting dashboard, or a complex data analytics tool, you are simulating professional software development. You're learning how Python handles complex logic in the real world to keep businesses running. And let me tell you, that is exactly what will get you hired. Let's move into Section 5, Common Mistakes to Avoid, the Beginner's Pitfalls.
Okay, as your mentor today, it is my job to warn you about the frequent traps that totally derail so many beginners. Number 1, watching tutorials without practicing. We've covered this. You just have to write code. Number 2, copying code blindly. If you copy and paste from a tutorial or say from an AI, you have to stop and read it line by line to actually understand why it works. Number 3, letting the fear of errors stop you in your tracks. Look, bugs are just puzzles waiting to be solved. Number 4, building projects that are way too complex too early on. And finally, number 5, abandoning projects halfway through. Listen closely to this one. A graveyard of unfinished projects will not get you hired. You have to push through the friction and finish what you start. Almost at the end here, Section 6, building your professional portfolio, the ultimate reward.
This is the final phase of the journey, where all that code you've been writing in your bedroom transforms into a serious career asset. Every single completed project becomes a showcase of your abilities. But you need to upload your work to GitHub so other people can actually see your code. And please, don't just dump the code there and walk away. Document what you've built. Write a clear, concise description explaining the exact problem you solved and the specific technologies you used to do it. A strong, well-documented portfolio of real business solutions proves beyond a shadow of a doubt that you can actually do the job. Believe me, it speaks way louder than any piece of paper or certificate ever will.
Look, every single expert software engineer out there started exactly where you are right now. They were all beginners once. The only difference between them and the people who quit? The successful developers just kept building. So don't wait around until you magically feel ready. Start today. Write some code. Make a ton of mistakes. Fix those bugs. Improve your projects. Projects are what transform knowledge into experience, and experience is what transforms beginners into professionals.
So the ultimate question for you is this. Are you going to be a professional tutorial watcher, or are you going to be a software engineer? The choice is quite literally in your very next line of code. What is the first project you plan to build to prove it? Drop down into the comments right now and let me know. I'd love to hear what you're working on. Also, if you found this explainer helpful, please hit that like button. Make sure to subscribe to the channel for more content on Python and software engineering, and share this with anyone else you know who is learning Python. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today, and happy coding.